Viene, corillo, que estamos buscando qué jugar, estamos buscando en qué seguir entreteniéndonos. Porque como la gente dice, mira, los que juegan videojuegos no hacen nada con su vida, lo que hace es perder el tiempo. Esa gente no hace nada productivo. Pues yo creo que ustedes sepan que estamos buscando en qué perder el tiempo. Así que, ¿en qué vamos a perder el tiempo? Aparentemente esto se llama Strands, Beginner Unreal Engine 5 to its Will Bending. Nada, vamos a ver. Este es un jueguito que se veía más o menos como si fuera un... ¿cómo yo les diría? Un Paladins. ¿Llegaron a ver Paladins alguna vez? Jugar Paladins. Pues algo así, lo que vi. Así que, nada, decidí buscar un poquito más, indagar un poquito más. Parecía había algún trailer y encontramos algo. IGN, by the way, el CNN del gaming. Tiene casi todo, así que nada, vamos a ver qué es la que hay, corillo. No olvides que me puedes seguir en donde Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Twitter o X, como te dé la gana de decirle, para que vean todo lo que estamos haciendo y sean parte del journey. Eso sí, antes de empezar, como siempre yo les digo, Happy Gaming. Vamos allá. Vamos a ver esto que tengo rabia hoy. Estoy rabioso. Vamos allá. No se dejen llevar, que se van a meter en problemas. By the way, esto es un qué. Vamos a hacer un Google it over here. Let's go. ¿Dónde está mi celular? Vamos a hacer un Google aquí rapidito. Al de que esto realmente, Eternal Strand. A mí me gusta sentarme aquí para que ustedes vean. O sea, literalmente yo me tomo mi tiempo para grabar y ver las cosas con ustedes. Quizá hay gente que piensa, este hombre, ve todo primero, te graba y después hacer las reacciones. Corillo, literalmente a veces hay cosas que me he quedado sin ver porque no las grabé, a veces me pasaron, había un montón. Yo decía, la madre, Strands. No me. Strands se llama. Eternal Strands. Strands. Vamos a poner game porque no me salen aquí. Ok, tenemos Steam. Esto es ¿qué? Nada. No me sale nada.
When it emerged,
vamos a ver lo que no encuentro una
with the
mierda.
physics gameplay, it was something that, in terms of philosophy, wanted to achieve for a very long time is like trying to bring the joyfulness and of physics game.
Esto se ve 4K. Vamos a ver, porque siento como que la resolución podría ir un poquito mejor. No, esto lo más está 1080. Ok.
In simulation games into a more action-packed game.
Perdonen si vieron que hice así. Es que en esta semana hemos tenido sucesos extraños donde vimos en el campo sapos, culebras y estoy mirando que no se va a meter nada para la casa.
Objects in the game have a temperature, and we also split the air inside small blocks of air. So everything inside the game have a temperature, and we have heat that can propagate from one object to the air environment. We have the opposite. Cold can also propagate and cool down objects and cool down the air. So in our game, an object can burst into flames simply because the hair around it is hot, or something can have its combustion extinguished simply because it's
so el
surrounded by
environment
cold air.
según las temperaturas
for the same
influyen.
reason, we have objects that fall into water can heat the water and produce vapor and have smoke effect and stuff like that. So it's all of our environment is simulating temperature, so we can have cold propagation, heat propagation that can start fire.
Un ambiente vivo, un ambiente vivo.
So,
un ambiente vivo, ya. A live environment.
Breath of a dragon will actually heat the environment and start fire, and that fire will also heat the environment and have fire propagation.
Y se rompe todo.
By example, you're having like the fire drake that will blast fire into your face. You can cast a wall of ice and reflect that fire to heat back on other NPCs around the heat, which is pretty fun. But with these spells also, you can lift stuff.
By the way,
physical.
Se ven cool los bosses. Este juego que un open world algo, ¿qué es esto? Se ven cool esos bosses. A mí me gustan los bosses así bien gigantes, cosas que no son reales, que no pueden existir y uno pelear con ellos, bien epic. La música, si tiene una buena música va a ser entretenido. Vamos a ver.
You can cast fire into it and create a ball of fire.
And typical
games,
Steam,
by the way,
fue lo que vi por ahí. Fire or you play with cold, it's living in a bubble around the player. In our case, the way it's built, it's throughout the whole gameplay area, the whole square kilometer of terrain. So if you're in a situation where
la gráfica es bien Paladins. Eso es un juego bien parecido a Overwatch. Que by the way, Paladin llegó primero y Overwatch llegó después, pero nada, es otro tema también que
to make that work. But it's the whole level can be on fire, the whole level can be frozen, half the map can be on fire, and the rest of the map can be freezing cold. All of that combines and work, and it's not, we're never limiting the player on what kind of impact it can have on the world. The idea behind having all those power was to break the mold.
Eso se ve cool ahí. Lo puedes congelar y todo.
The typical gameplay that have its own sets of rules. So when I was a kid, I was playing a lot of D&D, and a fireball in D&D does a certain amount of D6 of damage.
Su inspiración ya vemos es Dungeons and Dragons. Jugaba Dungeons and Dragons. D&D.
You are doing a fireball. In our case, we create fire. That fire can be combined with anything else. So instead of having very specific rules for specific power, we do it in a systemic way that will let them be combined with other elements in the game, letting the player use his imagination to be able to create his own effect and playing with rules instead of playing with a very, very specific set of gameplay elements. It's giving tools to the player to create his own chaos. Let them mess with the environment and mess with NPCs, and once that player understands the rules, then it's just playing with them, as opposed to just trying to use very fixed rules of gameplay elements.
Okay. Ustedes saben, vuelvo y les repito, nuestro YouTube es free. Si quieren hacer alguna donación porque les molesta que lo estemos viendo free to play, en confianza, sumen corillo. Mientras tanto, vamos a seguir formato free to play, porque aquí nosotros no somos gente millonaria ni nada por el estilo. Vamos allá. ¿Y eso está bien bajito, era? ¿O eso se supone que está en max volume todo el tiempo? Ok, aquí estamos.
That we built upon essentially
volvemos a la programación regular, corillo.
Each limbs of a creature. So you can think of a typical game when you play an animation, you move the mesh of the NPCs.
Esto es un Zelda mezclado con un poquito de Paladins visualmente,
mechanism for it to
con un
avoid
poquito
it going through collision or going through
juego.
a wall or something like that. So that's why in multiple games you'll see a sword go through and stuff like that. In our case, hands have weight, knees have weight, the head have weight, and all of that impacts how we play the animation. The whole body of the creature tries to follow the animation as opposed to having the animation dictate how the body moves. And because of that, if I try to punch through a wall, then the hand obviously will not be able to go through the wall.
Yo lo dejo frisado y ese tobillo es mío. Mira, lo dejamos frisado ahí. Y ese talón de Aquiles que tú ves ahí, papito, mira, es que yo lo dejo frisado y ese talón de Aquiles va a sufrir hasta no poder más. Ese hombre va a llegar a la casa y va a decir, mira, pícame el pie, pícamelo desde la rodilla, porque es que ese macho, ese hijo, lo que hizo fue enamorarse de mi talón de Aquiles.
Have mass, you'll physically see the creature trying to punch and having his arm being blocked, having a physical impact on how the rest of the body. So it creates a lot more realistic movement, but on something that is 25 meters tall, it conveys a lot of sense of weight. So when you see something like that, it feels real. It feels that it's interacting with the environment. For example, if it walks through a tree, then the tree will block some part of it, and you'll have immediately the feeling that, okay, it hit that tree, it broke to the tree, but it imparted some form of physical force and physical impact and realism to seeing that creature move around in the environment.
What the physical animation allows you, for example, in terms of gameplay, is you can have a giant like snapping trees in his wake. He can take the trees with his hand, throwing at you. He can throw it back using the spells.
You can hinder the creature's movement by using your ice power and freeze his arm in space.
You can use the force.
If he's trying to stump you, you can cast ice on its leg and block its knee from bending because it's now blocked. So since we're using physical animation to open a knee, you're not just playing animation. At some point having
hay combinaciones, nice. Hay varias.
Encapsulated in ice. And when he tried to breathe fire, because there was ice in the way, and our fire power follow through collision, so the fire went sideways and killed an NPCs on the side. So it's a completely random thing that it would be very difficult to do, but since our powers are completely systemic, it's something that just happened.
Así te puedes trepar a meterle. Nice. Yo creo que lo más cool es el mounting. Estaría haciendo mounting ahí, pam.
The flying creature throw its own fireball in it and then went back towards him as I was jumping in it. So I got catapulted with the fireball and back onto the flying creature, and I latched into it, and I started to slay it with the sword. That was amazing. In terms of how
el mounting se ve
magical powers, you have like an ice sword that generates spikes of ice on the ground, and then you can use your telekinesis power to grab them and throw in at foes. You have also the telekinesis bow. It creates like force field in which you can put heat or cold inside it. You can use that same telekinesis bow.
Tiene diferentes combinaciones para hacer como que un bubble de telequinesis y le tiras fuego dentro del humo, como que lo sigues cocinando. Puedes hacer... él dijo algo ahí de un Frost Axe, que una hacha y la coge, la zumba. Hay varias combinaciones.
That will detonate one after the other and like all the way up into an epic. You can use the same bubble to use that as a jump pad for you to latch into a very tall epic.
You can use a firebow to create steam and block NPC's vision. So you can create cover for yourself. Because it's a bow, you can fire that way and hide through the steam.
You can breathe fire into a tree log and then use your two-hander sword that is infused with telekinesis to create your own fireball, basically.
Ok. Vamos a tener que ver un poquito más de esto. Corillo. Vamos a tener que buscar a ver qué más hay por ahí, porque vimos un poquito de lo que es prácticamente el development de lo que es el juego, como que lo que van a estar usando, los poderes, cosas, cómo es el environment, que es un life environment, combinaciones, la magia, el ataque, pero queremos ver un gameplay, pero de pelea. Así que nada, vamos a estar buscando por ahí, vamos a estar viendo a ver si conseguimos algo. No olvides que me puedes seguir en Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Twitter o Threads, como te dé la maldita gana de decirlo. Así que, corillo, antes de irme, como siempre yo les digo, ¡Happy Gaming! Los veo, cuídense.